Hey everyone, my name is Kayla Lindsay and I'm going to go over my project 3-digit place value. I teach second grade, so I went to the Alabama course of study and took a look at a couple of the standards that I teach and took some of the activities I would have my students complete and adapted them to fit this project. So the first standard that I will be using is 2NBT1. Understand that the 3 digits of a 3-digit number represent amounts of hundreds, tens, and ones. So if you have the number 706, that equals 700 0 tens and 6 ones. The other standard that I'll be using for my project is 2NBT3. Read and write numbers to 1000 using base 10 numerals, number names, and expanded form. The goal for my lesson is that students will be able to represent 3-digit numbers in multiple ways using place value properties. My objectives are that students will explain the following terms: word form, expanded form, standard form, and base 10 models. Students will represent 3-digit numbers in standard form. Students will identify the number of hundreds, tens, and ones in a given 3-digit number. Students will represent 3-digit numbers in expanded form. Students will represent 3-digit numbers in word form, and students will represent 3-digit numbers using base 10 models. Evidence of learning will come from different portions of the lesson. At the beginning of the lesson, there will be interactive YouTube videos that give the students the opportunity to review some of the place value strategies they used in first grade, as well as introduce them to some of the new place value properties of hundreds that they did not learn in first grade. And there will be questions embedded within those YouTube videos to give them practice with the terms as well as representing those 3-digit numbers using place value properties. I have a Nearpod presentation. Throughout that presentation, there are different questions that allow them to practice drawing the models or representing the numbers in standard form, word form, or expanded form. The students will complete some place value games on a website called Splash Learn. This website will give them practice with different place value properties of 3-digit numbers and have them practice representing those numbers. There is a report that will generate at the end that lets me check for their understanding. The students will also participate in Kahoot Games at different points within the lesson to check for understanding. It will assess their ability to represent 3-digit numbers using standard form, word form, expanded form, base 10 models, as well as determine the value of a given digit in a 3-digit number. And finally, students will create a project on a 3-digit number. At the end of the lesson, they will take a 3-digit number, they will identify the hundreds, tens, and ones in that number, and then they will represent the 3-digit number using standard form, word form, expanded form, and base 10 models. So the assessments, I have a few assessments embedded throughout the lesson. Some of the formative assessments will come from Splash Learn. Like I said, that website generates a report and we'll take a look at that, and I can use that as a formative assessment. The Nearpod presentation, that is like a guided interactive PowerPoint presentation, and with those questions that are embedded within that, whenever the students answer those questions, it will come directly to my device, so I'm able to look at each specific skill within that presentation and check for understanding. The Kahoot Games will assess their understanding of the terms as well as the proper representation of a 3-digit number in the requested form, so I can use that as a formative assessment. And finally, the project that I'm having the students complete on the 3-digit number, I'll have them make a poster using Google Drawing to represent that 3-digit number, and I have a rubric to assess that project. The description of content materials, YouTube videos, I'm just going to take a look at those real quick. These are the videos that I was talking about that I selected that I'm going to make interactive for the engagement portion of my lesson. The first one is modeling numbers with base 10 blocks. This video is really good because it goes back, it reviews a little bit from first grade with the tens and ones, but it also introduces the hundreds to give them more practice with that. This is read and write 3-digit numbers. That is the second YouTube video I selected. It gives a 3-digit number. I like right here where it shows the models, because models are that pictorial representation of a 3-digit number, which is how they will learn to write numbers in expanded form. It will also go over the standard form and word form as well. And finally, the third YouTube video that I selected, place values, hundreds, tens, and ones. This goes over all the terms as well as standard form, word form, expanded form, the value of digits in 3-digit numbers. So it goes over all the different parts of the lesson, and through these videos I will go in and make them interactive and embed some questions. I also have an anchor chart that I've made. This is something that I use Poplet for this, and with this I gave them a 3-digit number in the middle, and then I took that 3-digit number in standard form, I represented it in expanded form, I identified the hundreds, tens, and ones, I represented the number using base 10 models, and then I wrote the number in word form. So this will just be a reference for the students to refer to throughout the lesson. The Splash Learn activities, this is a website that my students use, and they really like it because it's games that go with the skills. So this would be their assignment, and within the assignment there are these games, and I'll show you an example of one of the games. This game is word form to standard form, and when it opens up, it's a very kid-friendly game, so it's engaging and it's fun.
Convert to standard form.
I like this because it uses the correct terms, and so it gave the 3-digit number in word form, and then it gave them some options, and they have to click the correct 3-digit number in standard form. And a good thing about this game is that it provides immediate feedback. So if they get the answer incorrect, then they'll say, "I'm sorry, try again," and they try again. And they will do that for all the different pieces of that assignment. And so there's a game that hits on each of the specific skills. Now, this is the teacher view that I was talking about. This shows for my entire class, which because I created one specifically for this class, it only has one student. But if it had more students, I could click on it and it would give me a breakdown of each individual student's progress. At the bottom, right now it's white because that means that it says yet to start, so no one has started on that assignment yet. But whenever I click on the student's name, they will be given a color band. So if they are getting them all incorrect and they need help, they will be colored as red for needs attention, can do better, satisfactory, and master are the other color bands that they would have. And this is a good way to check for understanding and provide that evidence of learning that we talked about earlier. This is free, but the students will need the class code and password to get in to complete this activity. The Kahoot Games, after the engagement portion of the lesson, those are those YouTube videos that we talked about. I created an introductory Kahoot. It's just 10 questions, and this is just an example of what some of the questions would look like. What is the 3-digit number in word form, in standard form? It goes over the value of the digits. Going down, I did model some 3-digit numbers, and I would have them tell me what 3-digit number is modeled. Then after the independent practice portion of the lesson, that would be the Splash Learn activity, I have another Kahoot, and this one, it's similar, but it goes into a little bit more detail. I modeled some numbers, and they don't only have to tell me what 3-digit number it is, they would have to represent it in standard form, word form, and expanded form. And there are 10 questions to that Kahoot as well. The Nearpod presentation that I mentioned, that is the guided portion of the lesson where there are opportunities for them to practice throughout the presentation. I started out with some important vocabulary words, and then I wanted to show you some examples of some of the questions that I have put in the presentation. So this is interactive. They cannot go on to the next slide without me moving the slide on my presentation. So for example, the first one, write 214 in word form, where they type their answer and they submit it, it will immediately come to my device and I'm able to see which students are able to write the number correctly in word form, or some misconceptions that I need to address before moving on. There's a matching game embedded in this where they match the standard form and word form. There is a feature where they're able to draw the models for the 3-digit number. Once again, once they do that, it will come directly to my device so that I can check that before we move on to the next question. And so there are several slides in this, but they are interactive. So there are parts of the lesson where I can stop to go over those terms, but I like this because they've had the opportunity to practice, so here's where they can kind of show their understanding to me and gives me an opportunity to address any misconceptions before they move on to their final project. And those are the last 3 things that the students will need to complete this lesson. The base 10 models, this comes from a site, the Math Learning Center. It's a free math app, and with this, it shows the models on the side, and students are able to drag those models out to create 3-digit numbers, and they will use this to represent their 3-digit number in their project and screenshot that and upload it into their final project. They will need the Google Drawing project template, and I provided the link for that. This is what it looks like. The directions are at the top. It tells them what's expected. They will pick a 3-digit number in standard form. They will write it in expanded form, word form. They'll fill in the hundreds, tens, and ones chart, so identifying how many hundreds, tens, and ones are in that number that they selected. And then the models that they used from the Math Learning Center app, they will screenshot their base 10 models of their 3-digit number and insert it as an image onto this poster. And finally, there is a rubric, which I shared that from my Google Drive. It all looks like this. I just have a section for each form. So standard form, word form, expanded form, base 10 models, and the hundreds, tens, and ones chart. And they all say the student represents it correctly in the given form, or the student does not represent the number correctly in the given form, or they simply left it blank. So it's an all or nothing for each form, but all 5 components add up to the 100 points total. So this is my plan for my Module 3 project on 3-digit place value. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know.